Welcome to the Coach's Site. Thanks for logging on. I'm John Buccigross from ESPN. This, of course, is Rand Pecknold, the head men's hockey coach here at Quinnipiac. This is the third one I think I've done with the defending national championship coach, Greg Carville, David Carl, and now Rand in person. So great to be here at your rink where it all began. So let's begin with your journey and how it all started. Kind of interesting. In 1994, I'm on Cape Cod trying to make it to the big time, making 18 grand a year with a wife and two kids. And I'm thinking, who has it worse than me? Well, apparently you did.
Yes.
In 1994, you're making about $6,500 a year at your hockey job.
Yeah.
Where were you in 1994 and as your journey begins?
Well, I had done 3 years at Connecticut College as an assistant to Doug Roberts. And honestly, I wanted to get out after year two. And I didn't, not that I didn't get a job, I didn't get an interview. I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen here? And then I just felt I needed to build my resume. And then even that, after year three there, I only got two interviews that summer. I interviewed at Hobart, didn't get the job as the assistant, and then interviewed at Quinnipiac, and I got the job. I was like, I'll take it. It was $6,700, I'll take it. And not knowing kind of what I was getting into, but I just felt like I needed to do something different to build my resume.
And you still had to teach while you took that job?
Yeah, I had to teach to make money and get benefits. Really.
And that was where?
At that time, I was at Griswold High School.
Okay.
So it was about 71 miles away from Quinnipiac, and then so I had to commute. And then you throw on top of that, we practiced at midnight. So basically, I slept 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then slept 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. I lived my life in like 12-hour increments. So it was a little bit of a grind.
Of course, let's face it, finances is a decision when you're a young person, and trying to make a career choice. And were you ever discouraged? Did you ever think, maybe this isn't going to work out, I should have a plan B?
No, I wasn't. I knew that I needed, during that first year that we couldn't keep practicing at midnight. I mean, that was just wasn't going to happen. But my initial thing was maybe just do a couple years at Quinnipiac because it was part-time and then build it up, and that would lead me to a better job and in reality. And then, I liked it. Things were going well for us. And then during year four of Division III, that's when we announced we're going to go Division I. And I said, I'm going to be a D1 hockey coach.
Wow.
Then there was a little stress because then the rumors started going around that they were going to actually hire new coaches. And luckily, Jack McDonald had faith in me that I could handle it and gave me the opportunity.
So when you took this job, you weren't aware they had Division I aspirations?
No, not at all. No. Jack wasn't the AD then. They brought him in my second year. And then there was the thought that we might go Division I eventually. So then I was like, well, that'd be, it's a nice little break for me. So I do feel like I did get a nice break in that. But I also felt like I earned that I stuck it out and stuck with it and had to grind a little bit.
So like I said, we're similar age, fellow Aquarians. And so again, our careers do have a little symmetry. Again, I'm trying to get that next job. I'm trying to get to Providence, which I got to eventually, a little bigger market than Cape Cod. And I'm obviously ESPN's the dream, and we all have these big dreams. And again, you try to get a philosophy. You try to get better. You try to, who are my mentors? Who can I mimic? As you're coming up in the coaching world, what was your philosophy that you were going to borrow, mimic? How much were you going to create yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it was probably a strength and a weakness becoming a head coach at age 27. Coach Roberts was awesome. I played for him. He's an awesome human being. He's one of the best people I've ever met. But I was out of there pretty quick, and I hadn't been at the D1 level, which is different than the D3 level for sure, recruiting and coaching. So I had to kind of be self-taught. I probably would have liked to have been an assistant at D1 for a few years before getting a head job as Division I, but you are where you are and you take what you get. And so I kind of had to really self-teach and just trying to learn and as I go. And it's really hard as a young coach. Like there's not a lot of opportunities. There's not a lot of great books. I always remember reading Mike Krzyzewski's book, who's phenomenal coach, but he's talking about having Grant Hill, who's the third overall pick, and all these other I'm like, I don't have these first round picks.
Yeah.
So nothing against Mike, but I didn't get anything out of the book. I didn't get anything out of the book. So, but then I started just reading anything I could get, and a lot of it was just not sports related. I mean, Talent Code was a big one. I talked about a lot. Dan Coyle, great book. I remember reading that. I think it was, I'm going to guess summer of 09, might have been 08, but I guess probably more 09. And there's nothing about hockey in it at all, but it was just about how elite athletes of other sports or elite performers of musicians and singers have come out of certain areas. And that got me thinking, like, I can't continue to be vanilla. Everybody in college hockey, I think, is pretty vanilla. I need to change things if we're going to really win at Quinnipiac, and that put me on the path. I did track down Dan Coyle. I tracked him down. He did respond to me. We talked a little bit. He's like, well, if I don't know anything about hockey, but this is what I would do. And he helped me there a little bit. And then I came up with the idea to start hiring other coaches, pro coaches, to come to Quinnipiac, pay their expenses, give them a stipend, and they would come in and they would basically teach me. I would learn if that's how I would do it.
Wow.
And I did that with a number of people. The best one was Barry Smith, who had been with the Red Wings, and he was great in teaching me, a lot of intricacies of how the Red Wings won their cups. And I learned a lot from him. And I don't do exactly how they did it, but I learned a lot, and then I tweaked it as I went into what would work for us.
Wow. And what were, you think, the one or two really secret sauce that changed you as a coach and really the trajectory of the program?
There's a lot of things I do better now than I did then. One was we changed our neutral zone. We went to what the Red Wings used. I think that helps a lot.
Which is what?
So 1-1-3. You saw it against Minnesota, Michigan. It was good. It was really good, and we're great at it. And it's not something that, because there's other coaches that I've seen it in college. Anytime we have a good year, like, let's do what Quinnipiac does, and they run the 1-1-3 in October, maybe a little bit in November, and it doesn't work, and they get away. Like, you gotta stick with it. It takes a while. It takes, like my juniors and seniors have done it for 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
You get used to it. You get good at it. There's a lot of little nuances if you don't know how to coach it that you need to figure out. But that was a big one. And I think probably the biggest thing, I'd probably put one, was just our practice habits. I think in college hockey, let's be honest, like Friday, Saturday nights, and the kids are going on, and you don't want them to, but they're going on Saturday nights, and then you got Sunday football, and then you come back to Monday practice. And for years, Monday practice was just, man, it was a grind.
Lethargic.
It's just awful. And I'm like, God, I don't want to be yelling at these kids on Monday, and then I got to get them motivated because they're going to hate me, right? And then I just made the decision that, we're going to be great every day in practice. You guys are doing what you're doing on Sunday, but you're showing up Monday and you're ready to go. And I had to get my captains and my players to really buy into that. And a big part of that, I had a lot of great captains when I made that decision to change, but I brought in Connor and Kellen Jones. And those two, they changed our program. Like the way they competed, like it was crazy, off the charts. And then Matt Pekka the next year, and then like we still feel the effects of those three and others around them, St. Dennis and others that, like we show up. It's a war every day. Like we're limited on the time we get in September, and our practices are awesome already.
Obviously, there's plenty of content out there now for coaches to glean on, right? There's websites, and there's obviously books, and there's videos, that really just a plethora that they can choose from. If you were 25, 26 years old now, you'd have all kinds of access. Do you think you'd be less of an original thinker had that? So what would your advice to be to someone when there's so much information out there?
That's a good question, but yeah, this stuff wasn't there 28, 29 years ago. Just
It's pre-internet.
30 years. It wasn't. There's so much that's good out there. I think a little bit of, like, you need to learn, you need to figure out what you like and what works for you, but you also have to be in an environment where you're not worried about losing your job. And I've been really lucky to be there, and I've tried different things. I've switched our D-zone coverage in the last 2 years. I've switched things. I don't have an athletic director. I have Greg Amodio now, or Jack McDonald before. They're not hanging over my shoulder going, what are you doing? They're just like, as long as you win, the kids get good grades, and no one gets arrested, we're all good. And they've been great. Jack was that way. Greg's that way. Same with the presidents I've worked for. I think you also have to be in an environment where you're willing to try things and you're allowed to try things.
Expectations, though. We got one of these things now.
We do.
We have banners now.
Yes.
Could that change? Or again, do you think since you're still here, do you think as long as you're here, you'll be able to temper that? Maybe the next guy it might be harder, but how do you deal with that now as being a national champion?
Yeah, as long as Greg continues, which he's gonna, and our new president, Judy Olian, they've been great. They they leave me alone and they let me, and I know that doesn't happen at every school.
Right.
It just doesn't. There's always people hovering and hanging, and especially in pro hockey. You've got all those GMs and assistant GMs and they all play in the NHL. Everybody has an opinion on how things should run. So I just feel I'm in a really fortunate situation that I'm allowed to to try things and change things. And then again, I have to be good at what I do. And I have a great staff, a great group of coaches that help me with that. But, as of right now, I'm in a pretty good spot.
You mentioned practicing hard, but what's the best way you think for a coach to approach a practice? Are there one or two golden rule drills or golden rules that you feel you have to have at every practice to be a great practice team?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I believe in, and I've had two boys that have gone through hockey. I had Marty St. Louis coach one of my sons. Watched him do it, and was his assistant, helped him on Sundays. But to me, it's about pace, and I just think when I'm walking through rinks all the time, whatever, I think if you have pace and kids are going full speed, that's where they get better. And that's the same thing for us. If you look at how many walk-ons we've taken that made the NHL, or kids that nobody really wanted that make the NHL for us, or play in Europe or whatever, become All-Americans for us. When you're going full speed, full tilt, and you're in that battle mode every day in practice, you're going to get better. If you're showing up at practice and you're going 60, 70%, you go through the motions, you'll get a sweat, but you're not really going to improve your game. So I think the number one thing to me is pace. And it can't just be the coaches. The kids have to want it. They have to want to do it. It can't be the coach yelling and screaming to get it. Like, if you're doing that, it's not going to work. You have to have your players buy into it. It's part of your culture. This is what we do every day. We compete. We work our tails off in the weight room. Then we get on the ice. We do the same thing here. And for us, we recruit those type of kids. There's coaches out there that are different levels. They have, if you're coaching U15 in your area, you might just have who's local.
You got
to take what you get,
Yep.
and you always have to find a way to adapt. But I do think you have to find ways. We do a lot of small games, a lot of small compete things. Just before we were mapping out practice today, and with Corbs and Joe, and I said, hey, this is the small game at the end, and I said to him, we need a winner. I want a winner in the game. We're not playing the game to play a game. It might be a 7-minute small game, whatever it is, whatever we're working on. But we have to have a winner, and our players love that. They thrive on that every day. They want a winner. They don't want a loser, but someone's going to lose, and you got to be fired up to be able to play every day. Ideal
length of practice. If you had to pick a time with that pace you talk about to get the most out of it.
We don't go that long at all. We're quick, and that's because we're efficient, and we go. And if you're at pace, you can kill it in 45 to 60 minutes. Sometimes we go a little bit longer if you're like, doing, which I hate doing, like walkthroughs. I hate that. The players hate it. Everybody hates it. We try to do more on the board before practice or on video, and then we get on the ice. It's like, it's compete mode and we're going, but you can definitely get in and out in 60 minutes, have an awesome practice.
How important is conditioning in the weight room to your philosophy, and how do you marry them?
So we're fortunate. Our strength coach, Brajesh Patel, is outstanding. He does such a good job with those guys in there, teaching them to be athletes, teaching them to be great people, that when we get them on the ice, we are a well-conditioned team. Interesting thing, I can't remember the last time I lined our guys up and did a bag skate. That's the quote in hockey.
Yeah, right.
Let's do a bag skate today. We got to get them in shape. Like, never. Not seven. You're my earliest, but we don't do it at all anymore. It's all, if you're going at pace, they're going to get their conditioning within practice. If you're doing a lot of small games or you're working on certain things down low, there's a lot of battle drills. That's where they get their conditioning. And a lot of times they don't realize they're in shape. I think when you line them up on the line, it's like, it's almost like a punishment. That's how it's kind of viewed all the way through. And players hate it. They hate to do that. And so we never do it.
Temperament. How have you evolved in your temperament? Did you once yell a lot and realize this isn't working? Did you hone that part of your coaching? And whether you're a parent or a coach, right? How much do I yell?
Absolutely.
How much do I don't?
Yeah, absolutely. I have my early years. Yeah, my early guys will tell you that, oh God, Rand had a few beauties with going off or this or that, or maybe throwing some sticks once in a while. But, as you mature as a coach, I realize it really doesn't work. One of our keys to success here, and we have a lot, is our players love coming to the rink every day. They love going to the weight room. They love jumping on the ice. They feel comfortable. They feel safe. They feel secure. They're ready to go to work. We definitely hold them to a higher standard, and I'm firm with them. I think I yelled once last year, one time, and I regret it.
Wow. When was that?
One time. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about the player I yelled at. I was firm with the team as a whole.
Right. Was this during a game or during a practice?
It was during a game.
Okay.
It was during a game, and I was like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But I just think, confidence is such a big part of being successful in hockey and really in life. And if you're going every day and you're beating them up verbally, which is how it was done. I was a player. I did it in my early. The Mike Ditka.
Our generation.
Sort of Mike Ditka. I don't think he's watching this, but that mentality, and it did work. Yep. But now, there's better ways to deal with your players, and as you saw in the Frozen Four, we were a confident group. Our guys are not afraid to make mistakes. They know they're going to make them. We're going to coach them. We're going to teach them. A lot of it's in a one-on-one environment, but it's very positive, and our guys want to learn. But in terms of yelling and screaming, it's not often.
That's really interesting, because I've always got this sense around here, it's had a professional vibe. Now, I don't know if you're just trying to give that off, and to some people, I think it probably comes off as arrogant to some people. They almost look at you like he thinks he's better than us. Right. But it just seems like that's the vibe you're trying, like you said, a professional attitude. Again, was that a conscious decision to do that? Is that just a part of your personality and how you were raised and your dad, and just all these things accumulated to reach a point for your style as a coach and as a program leader? Because you're GM, president, and head college coaches are the whole thing.
Yeah, I think just a natural maturation process of adapting and becoming a better coach. I think I'm better now than 2016 when we were really good and almost won a national championship. I think I just keep evolving, and I think you have to keep trying to do that and evolve with the players that you have. And I think my staff right now, so that's Corbs and Joe and then Billy Riga before, do a really good job of finding the right type of player that's going to work well with me as a head coach and work well in our culture. I think that's really important. We do a very good job of that. Are we perfect? No, we make some mistakes here or there. But I think we really work on that. And then again, every year it's about adapting to what do we have, what do we think. Like last year, a big thing for me was attack adversity. It comes, and I talk about it a lot, but last year I really talked about it. It comes in all shapes. It comes in the first period, it comes on your first shift, it can come in your warm-up, or you're on your way to the rink and you go to Dunkin' and they screwed up your order. It's adversity comes in every, is that going to rattle you? Whatever. We talk about it a lot.
So you said attack adversity.
Attack adversity, yeah.
And
then we get in the Minnesota, the national championship game, we're down 2-0.
Yeah.
There was no panic on because we had talked about it all in different situations. That had come, hey guys, we talked about this. Let's attack. We've come through all year long. Let's band together. Because I think a lot of these kids are, they're still young and they're still fragile, and oh my God, we're down 2-0, and there was none. There was none. It was 2-1 with whatever 5 minutes. The whole third period, we were dominant. Our guys were so confident that we were going to win that hockey game.
But that tone was already set, right?
Set, yeah.
So when they got in that position, you're not trying to teach them in that moment.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into that national championship game, but a lot of things we did in October and November won us that national championship in March.
So again, you joined the ECAC, and you're kind of a middle to bottom half team for a while. Yeah. And then boom, was it the Jones brothers? Is it pretty much that was the light switch? But bam, you make it the Frozen Four in 2013, and you play for a national championship. Like it was a pretty delineate. You see that line? There's a mark of delineation there. You suddenly got elite.
Yes.
So
I mean that 2012-13 year, we were number one in the country. That's the first time we'd ever been voted one. It took forever, too, but nobody would vote for it. It took forever. Right? Yeah. It's Quinnipiac, right? And then we did it and went to the Frozen Four and made it to the national championship game. But I think that year really launched us, and Connor and Kellen were on that team, Pekka. But we had a lot of great players on that team. And Eric Hartzell, I still to this day, should have won the Hobie. It's ridiculous he didn't win the Hobie. He was the best player in the country. He launched us. He was a big part of that. He had a great year. And then from there, now you're having the success, and you can move up the food chain a little bit, and then you start getting better recruits and better recruits. And even now, everybody's like, "Oh, it must be easy now." It's not easy now. Oh my word, it's so hard recruiting. I mean, it's a dogfight out there every day. But that 12-13 year, that was a special group. It was an older group. We had a lot of seniors. Zach Curry was a captain. He did a great job. There's a lot of older guys. I think Connor and Kellen might have been juniors, and Pex was a sophomore. But there was other kids within that, and then that just kind of launched us. And we still feel the effects of that team to this day.
So what's it like? So now you establish something, a business or an athletic team, but now you're trying to get over the hump. You want to be the best pizza shop in town. You want to be you want to win that. Yeah. So you get to the Frozen Four, you lose in 13. You get there again down there in Tampa and lose to an unbelievable North Dakota team, which history has shown. You really tell years later how good teams are, right? I mean, the guys are making the NHL, multiple guys who are having NHL careers, and now you're there again last year. What did you take from the losses, if anything, that could help you last year?
Well, we definitely, I think, took a lot from our other Frozen Four experiences, and Joe Dume had been there with Union, and we took a lot. I don't know if I want to share that on this.
I understand.
I don't need. There's guys that might watch us. I got to play again.
You're in the prime,
Four.
Man. Yeah, you want to win more.
I'm willing to share a lot.
You got to hide a little bit.
I think I'm going to hold off on that because there's a couple things that we really made a decision. Joe and I did because of our experiences before, how we were going to do things differently. And I think it helped us.
And these are preparation, how much we practice, rest, food, those kinds of things. So those are intangibles that you learn as you go through. Right. Are there any fundamentals that you could share, saying in the end, this was really important to win a championship. Again, some of it's luck. These are 2-1 games, 3-2 games, a bounce here or there. You know, you're in position to win. But are there fundamentals you feel that are non-negotiable?
Well, in general, I already mentioned it. I'll mention it again. I felt, and I still feel like our 13 team and our 6 and other teams that we have a lot of great teams in between. I just felt like we need to be even more confident going into these situations, playing teams that have 15, 16 draft picks in the high first round.
How do you coach confidence?
It starts August 28th when you get here. Pushing, getting them to understand how good we are, getting them to understand that, like even last year, like we won a ton of games. We had a great record, right? It's hard to win 30 games in this. It's crazy hard to win 30. We had 34, but there was a lot of, like, we had to grind out a lot of wins, and getting our guys to understand, like, hey, it's not going to be easy, and it wasn't. But our guys were so confident along the way, and then we would grind out a win, and then we'd do it again, then we'd come from behind and grind out a win. So you get into a situation when through the whole tournament, where really Merrimack, we were probably the favorite. We go to Ohio State. Teams are like, people are like, they're not going to beat Ohio State. It's the Big Ten, and but now we got to beat 3 Big Ten teams in a row, and our guys were more confident than anyone, and I just really feel that was a big part of it. And there's just so many little things you can do along the way to build that confidence. Understand if we buy into our identity, we will get rewarded. It's a phrase I use a lot, and it worked out obviously well for us this year.
How do you coach intermissions? What would be your advice to a young coach? What is the object of an intermission?
That's a great question, actually. I don't think I've ever been asked that.
Thank you.
So it's so in college, for us, it's 15 minutes.
Okay.
Some of the leagues are 12, but we're 15.
Okay.
So I like to give them a little time to decompress, get themselves organized, because there's a lot going in their heads too. There's a lot of stuff going through that coaches. What's my dad going to think? What's my mom, my grandmother's, my girlfriend?
My
they've
agent.
got my agent. They've got I'm drafted, I'm not drafted, I'm undrafted, whatever. There's a million things in their head, so they need a little time to decompress. I come in at the 8-minute mark. They know it's going to be 8, pretty much on the dot. I'm going to try to talk to them for 3 or 4 minutes, if that. I'd like to be quicker than that. Before the overtime, it was like 11 seconds. It was boom, in and out.
Wow.
They didn't need to hear from me. It was quick, and it was good, but it was quick. But I always try to focus on 2 things or 3 things. I think if you go in there and you got 5 things and you talk about 8 things, they're looking around, their head's spinning. So what's the 1 thing, 2 thing, maybe 3 is max. Do I sometimes break that rule? And then afterwards I'm like, God, there's no way they're gonna, because now they've got too much in their head. But I think it's just a couple quick things. It's probably things you're already talking about on the bench or talking about in your pre-scout on them. But short and sweet sometimes is better than long and drawn out. Is
that past what they did the first period, or what you want them to do, or just in terms of what you're focusing on in those 2 or 3 bullet points?
There's a lot of different ways you can go in between periods. I will say this: I remember I got really fortunate to do USA Hockey Worlds, right? So I had Eichel and Gaudreau and Anders Lee, Larkin. I was like, this was awesome. Yeah. So Jeff Blashill was the head coach. And he was so good at 5 minutes or less meetings, and like everything was 5 minutes or less. And I'm like, how do I get? He's like, you'll figure it out. And I did.
Wow.
And I really give him a lot of credit. He made me a better coach in what I learned from him, because you can get things done quicker. You don't need to drag out. You get your point across. You get them in and out. At the NHL level, it's 82 games. So 82 power play meetings, 82 peak, like 8, right? College, not as much, but it's a lot of meetings. So in and out, same thing in between periods. You can get your point across quicker than you probably think.
And that's what I like about you is you can tell you're a self-improver. You love to learn, and you get, just saying those NHL names, you got wide-eyed. Like there's a bit of hockey innocence to you still, which is probably why you, like I said, you probably consider yourself, you are in your coaching prime right now. You think of Bill Belichick, his second act with the Patriots began in his late 40s, and then he really got to be Bill Belichick right about your age, right? That's when you really establish yourself. And here he is, 71, and he's still, maybe he's just about at the end, but this has been a really good run through his 60s and now into his 70s, and who knows, he may have one more act to go.
Right.
So that enthusiasm and curiosity, I don't know if you can coach that, but how important is that for a coach to sustain his love of the game and to get better as you get older?
Yeah, I definitely have passion. I love coming every day to the rink, and I was excited to come up here and do this interview with you, but I was just down with my guys. And I got things to do before, I got video to show guys and whatever. But I just think, in the end, it's not something you can fake. You can't fake that passion. So, I don't want to tell coaches not to go, but if you're out there and you're like, it's a drag going to the rink every day, you might need to find something else to do.
Mm-hmm. So this thing at all didn't affect coming to the rink for practice 1 this year?
No, not at all. No.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get another one.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's this year, but we'll get another one at some point.
Mm-hmm. And what is, have you sought out knowledge for after you win? This off season, this summer, like what do you do? What do you say when you already won? Especially when there's kids who won it last year, right? Now, what are the expectations? How do I push but not too hard? Do I relax at the start of the year? Do I punch right away?
Yeah,
what have you learned this summer?
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed because every summer I have a couple things that I want to conquer to get better at, or I'm going to go meet with a certain couple NHL teams, or could be pro coaches or whatever. They don't have to be NHL coaches. There's a lot of good coaches that aren't in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And this summer was so hectic when I was on tour with this thing, which is great.
Yeah.
I'm not upset about it. That I just kind of put a couple things off. There was a couple NHL teams we had talked about doing something, and I just like, you know what? I got so much on my plate right now, and we got to recruit, and we got to reload, and so I'm a little mad at myself. I didn't carve out a little more time, but I've already got it in my head. 2 things I want to conquer for next summer. And I just got to find the right dance partners that want to do it with me, that, again, preferably NHL guys that feel that I can give them something, they can give it to me. But, some of the guys I've met with over the years were not NHL coaches. We've met with major junior guys, other colleges. It's harder with the college coaches because then you're going to play against them.
Yeah.
And then, I'll share, but I don't want to fully share.
Sure.
And the same with them. So, and you mentioned Belichick. Belichick does it every year. He brings in some of the top college coordinators around. The problem that happens there is those guys, if they're really good, are all probably going to end up in the NFL soon. So it's that happens a little more than college hockey. But I'm always looking and trying to learn and trying to figure out a way to get better.
How important is to have a relationship with USA Hockey and some of those, the teenage teams that they coach? Is there a benefit to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my World Juniors was awesome.
Yeah.
It was such a great experience with the coaches that we were with Pat Ferschweiler, Reed Cashman, Nick Four, the whole group there. John Van Vriesbeck was awesome. Just having him, the way he managed the whole thing. And that was new for me because I'm not used to having somebody actually, he didn't micromanage me, but somebody I had to report to.
Yeah. That's true. You're not used to that here, are you? Yeah.
No, and he was so good, and I learned a lot from him and the scouts and picking the process. So I'm really, really fortunate and appreciative of USA Hockey that I've had a number of opportunities to do that, because that is a great learning environment. It was, the World Juniors was 27 days. Actually, I just bumped in the other day in recruiting. I bumped into the Slovakian head coach, and we talked a little bit there. And he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, can I come to Quinnipiac and watch a practice?" And we talk a little. I'm like, "Absolutely, come on in."
Very cool.
So that stuff is just a great way to learn and try to figure out new ways to be good.
Assistants are important. You've had amazing assistants here at Quinnipiac. How would you, as a head coach, recommend the role of an assistant? What kind of assistant in terms of personality, and what you feel they should do and bring to the table to best kind of separate the powers and also to share the responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line with assistants. I think you need to give them ownership and you need to have them do things. For number one is, you don't want your players Monday through Thursday is all they hear is your voice, and you get Friday, Saturday, and they're like, "Oh my God, he doesn't stop." It's like, so you need to, and you listen, but it's a fine line, because if your assistants aren't very good, then you have to do everything, and or if they're really young, or if they're new to they haven't coached before, it's a little different. But I give my assistants a ton. I've obviously been fortunate to have great ones over the years, and so I can kind of step back and pick and choose. But I also think, in the end, you have to put your assistants in a position to succeed. Just as you got to put your players in a position to succeed. Don't take a kid that doesn't defend well down low and have him be your center. Put him on the wing, make it easier as a freshman, and then maybe later on you move them. But the same thing with your assistants. You have to give them things that they're going to be good at. And in a nice way, you have to stay on top of them. You got to be like, "Hey, what are we doing with recruiting? What are we doing with this? What's your thoughts on this?" And try to make sure, not that you're hovering, but they're on task. And if they're on task, then you let them roll.
How about during the game? Do you coach pretty much standard hockey protocol and
separation I do the
powers?
forwards. Joe does the D.
Okay.
Joe calls out all the D zone draws and neutral zone draws. I let him do that because there's a lot on my plate.
Okay.
He's great at it. Obviously, it worked well against Minnesota. I didn't even know we were running that play, to be honest with you. I know we have that play, but I didn't know that he had said that. He just said it to the line that was going out there, and I'm fine with that. The ozone draws, we let the kids decide. I want them to have ownership in that. We give them, "Hey, here's your 3 from the left dot, here's 3 from the right dot." maybe 2 on each. Like, it's just maybe 1 if I'm not happy with the line. They're not running the plays right. Well, you got 1. But they do have some ownership.
Cool.
Because, again, it's hard. There's so much going on in the game. Like, it's not like football. You're going to call a play every time. You just can't do that. So you have to have your players with some ownership, even on the power play. Like, here's what we want to try to do tonight to beat this, the way they kill and how we can beat their goalie. But in the end, I always say to them, look, if it's not there and there's something, make a play. Just go ahead and make a play. I'm not going to get mad at you. You have to make plays because you can't have robots on the ice. You're not going to win games with that.
How about in-game demeanor on the bench? Is this something you were conscious about developing, an in-game demeanor on how you act, how much you yell, whether it's at officials or your own guys?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to really be nicer to the officials in the last few years. I think they would admit I've been better. It's hard because it gets frustrating at times. There's some great ones in our league. There's some guys, I thought the officials throughout the NCAA tournament were excellent. It was really, really good ones. They were good. They communicated with you. They knew the rules. They had a feel for the game. But I think that's probably been something I've gotten better at is kind of being a little more calm on the bench. But again, there are times when your team needs a spark, and it's not yelling at an individual player, but it's more like they need to feel your passion, and there's different ways you can get your passion through.
And so what would you feel is the best demeanor to have on a bench, if you could sum that up?
I think it just depends on the situation. I think calm at times. Like, I was pretty calm throughout the Minnesota game, and confident, and I was preaching, hey guys, we've had adversity all year, we'll come back, we're fine, just keep grinding, we got to grind a little more. And it was more like, let's do this a little better. The guys would come off, that's what I want, that's what we need. I shouldn't say that's what I want, that's what we want. Sorry, it's always we. But I think in that game, it was such a high pressure packed situation. It was all about me making sure I was calm, yet confident, and we also needed to stay aggressive and be aggressive on the ice, and I thought we took over that game the second half of the game.
And how do you do that, keeping your team on their toes?
I mean,
when you say hunt the puck, that's a big one.
Yeah, like a lot of what I do in my verbiage is 3-word increments. Attack the day, hunt the puck. That's books I read and psychology I've talked to. That's sticky. If I use that term, that's sticky. Like, if you think about one of the best ad campaigns ever is Nike, just do it. 3 words, like that sticks. 4 is a maybe. You get to talking for like a minute and a half about something. They don't register that. I'm like, guys, we need to hunt the puck, and they walk away from the pile back to the face. All right, I got to hunt. I got to have face-off intensity. I got to have some jump, and I think those are things I've learned over the years.
So 3-word phrases, coaches.
Yes,
that's what we're going for.
We're trying.
And really, finally, just they kind of maybe sum this all up. Like, why do you love coaching? What is it about it that has sustained, and why has the passion sustained all these years? If you were to tell someone if there's some keys to keep the passion, increase your passion, what would it be?
I think ultimately for me is like I'm a highly competitive person. I not only want to win, but I want to be good at my job. I want to be excellent at my job. I want to, whether I'm giving a presentation or coaching my guys, I don't necessarily need that feedback from them. I need that self-feedback that, okay, I did a good job today, and I put my time in, or I prepared for this. Like, I get in trouble with my wife all the time when I go do meet with these NHL teams. Like, I'm excited. I'm a little kid. Like, I'm like, this is great. And my wife was ready to kill me one year. I way over-prepared. I always over-prepare. And she's like, what is going on? Like, can we go out tonight? Can we do this? Whatever. And I'm like, all right, I need to cut back. But I just think that's a drive that I have. You asked me, like, how do coaches do that? Like, I think it's innate. Like, you either have it or you don't. And you got to wake up every day. And, again, we use the phrase attack the day. You got to attack the day. And everything's not going to go great for you every day. You got to find a way to fight through that stuff when things aren't going your way, and be more positive, and I think you'll get better results in life.
Because it's rare for someone to be at a job this long now. Like, as long as you have, the newer generation, it's not working like that. How the endurance? How do you keep the endurance to keep the interest high? You think? What has been the secret for your success in that regard? Just hanging around.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some opportunities, but in the end, like, the grass is not always greener. It's not. And we're in a great situation, and I also sometimes need to step back, and it's not just about my career and my job, because I love it here. Would I go somewhere else and probably love it there? Yeah, if it's the right spot, yeah. But my wife loves it. My kids are settled. They have friends. Right. So there's been a little bit of that too. Like, this is what's best for my family. But I've been really fortunate in that I do feel appreciated at Quinnipiac. They do take care of me. I do well. I didn't do well in my early years, but I feel like I'm making
Right.
it up now.
Right.
But in the end, like just get yourself in a good situation. And some guys do have to move. They have to move and bounce around. And that was always my intent. I wasn't going to be Quinnipiac for 30 years. I was going to move and I always wanted to be a NESCAC head coach. That's what I wanted.
Wow.
I played at Connecticut College, or I'll take the Trinity job or Middlebury or what. That was my goal at 25, 26, 27. And obviously things changed for me. And I got myself in a little better situation. Those are great jobs too. And maybe, who knows, maybe in the end, that's where I'll finish up in one of those jobs. I would love one of those jobs. Those are great situations, great environments. But I'm pretty fortunate how it's all worked out for me.
Yeah, well, I've often compared coaching to parenting. Something that it's just the greatest job you can have. It's a gift to have one, right? Especially at a high level like this. But like I said, our careers have kind of aligned. My first Frozen Four was your first Frozen Four. I've done 11 now, 3 of them with Quinnipiac, and of course, finally now a national championship for you. And that was my first overtime call as well. I was telling the boys, the only bad thing about your overtime win was that it was 7 seconds long.
Yeah, it was quick.
We could have built something up. It gets on Twitter. More people watch. The rating goes through the roof. But it was an amazing moment. And so, Rand, again, congratulations once again. Thanks so much for doing this and all your knowledge. You really do have a fountain of it. It's an interesting, unique story. Really an American success story in a lot of ways, only in this country. And continued success here at Quinnipiac. And thanks again for logging on and listening to National Championship head coach Rand Pecknold. I'm John Buccigross. Thanks again.